Hi, my name is Liza Robertson Young. I'm a City of Evanston staffer. I'm the Chief Legislative Policy Advisor for the city, and I'm going to talk tonight about some policy developments at the city level.
Hi, I'm Rue. I'm going to be presenting on knowing your rights and a few more things.
Hi, everybody. Enrique Espinosa. I am an immigration attorney and an immigrant myself. I'm part of the Rapid Response team, also part of the HLAI, which is the Hispanic Lawyers Association from Illinois. So I want to be very happy to share with you what's happening in the legal field in real time, like today, for example, and what it is to be tear gassed and be shot at by your own government. So feel free to save your questions for the end. I'll be happy to respond anything that I can contribute to this conversation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emma Soglin. I'm a legal fellow focusing on immigration at the Moran Center for Youth Advocacy. I'm going to speak about family preparedness and safety planning and temporary guardianship.
Hi, my name is Allie Harned, and I am a community member and staff member in District 65, and I'm going to talk about how community members and schools are organizing to support our communities.
Start off talking about the City of Evanston's welcoming ordinance and what we've done since last year.
So we've done a number of things at the city level to respond to the federal government's surge in immigration enforcement. First, I'm going to talk about our Welcoming City Ordinance. This is our local sanctuary law. Evanston first enacted the Welcoming City Ordinance in 2016, and the ordinance provided that city officials will not participate in federal civil immigration enforcement, and that city officials, staff, and police will not inquire about anyone's immigration status. However, since 2016, the law in this area has evolved, and we've also seen emerging issues in immigration enforcement that we didn't really contemplate in 2016, particularly regarding the federal government's use of multiple federal agencies to enforce immigration law in a really militarized way, and the use of local government data and information to target people for immigration enforcement based on citizenship status. And so for these reasons, in January, right before Trump took office, we voted to update our Welcoming City Ordinance to ensure that Evanston has the most robust safeguards in place to protect, as much as we possibly can, against the real overreaches in immigration enforcement we're seeing right now. So there are a few things I want to highlight about the new ordinance that I think are really important. The first is that it says that the city won't participate in civil immigration enforcement conducted by any federal agent, including not only ICE agents, which was prohibited under our previous ordinance, but also agents from agencies like Customs and Border Patrol or the Federalized National Guard, and importantly, anyone doing private contracting in this area, for instance, private prison corporations, federal contractors who are managing immigration detention facilities. The second thing that it does is it ensures that data collected by the city will not be used for immigration enforcement. It says that we won't share any city database or data sharing platform with immigration officials or with any other federal agency or with any third parties like private data brokers who then turn around and resell information they collect from local government to ICE. And this is really important because we've learned in the last few years that ICE routinely uses data obtained from local government or from private companies to surveil immigrants and target enforcement operations. So we're going to ensure that data you share with your city government is not used for this purpose. And then the third thing I want to talk about is that it says that the city will provide public resources related to immigration, including events like the one we're doing tonight, developing policies for our public facilities, offering immigration resource information through 311 and on the city website, and producing Know Your Rights cards in English, Spanish, Polish, Haitian Creole, Mandarin, and Arabic, which are available on the table at the back of the room. So that's the Welcoming City Ordinance. More recently, we've passed a resolution to clarify implementation of the Welcoming City Ordinance that's been kind of colloquially being called the ICE-Free Zones Resolution. And what this says is that we won't allow any city-owned or controlled parking lot, vacant lot, garage, or any other city-owned or operated property from being used as a staging area or processing location or operations base for ICE. And that includes assembling, mobilizing, deploying vehicles, equipment, materials, or personnel. We've seen around the Chicago area, particularly in the city of Chicago, ICE using municipal property to set up immigration enforcement operations. We're going to make sure they don't use City of Evanston property to do this. The other part of this resolution is that it requires the city to develop signage for city-owned property, clarifying that immigration enforcement is not welcome, and also signage that private property owners or renters can use to delineate non-public areas of their property in which agents can't access it. And those signs are available free of charge from the city, including to businesses, medical providers, nonprofit organizations, anyone who wants one. They're also on the city website, and we have hard copies of those at the back of the room as well. And then the third thing I want to highlight, as the mayor said, this just happened today. We've put a moratorium on enforcement of our leaf blower ordinance. And this is after ICE targeted landscapers in Evanston just yesterday, and we received numerous requests from the community and from council members to pause enforcement during this time. This will keep people doing this work and our staff who would otherwise be enforcing the ordinance safe. And then last, I just want to echo the mayor's statement that if you have ideas on what the city can be doing, we would love to hear them. I would be excited to talk to any of you. Please reach out anytime. And with that, I will hand it over.
Thank you. Okay, everyone needs to know their rights, yes? Telling people their rights is a normal thing, and we all need to make sure that we know our rights and that we can make sure that our neighbors know their rights. So one of the major rights is you can be safe in your own home. That means law enforcement can't come in. I think you all know that. You have the right to remain silent, and we all know that. But what is new, or what I have just learned, is that if someone is approaching you and trying to arrest you, who is an ICE agent, you can say, I do not want to deal with you, because then it's not a consensual arrest. And that gives you a little bit more legal standing if you are targeted by ICE. You can speak with and be represented by an attorney. Enrique is going to talk a lot about that. And you also can make your case in court. I want to highlight the shields that you look at. The basic way to remember it is stars are okay and shields are not. Stars are for the police and the others are for deputized and ICE people. A lot of ICE people are dressing as police, so be aware of that. And they're not even showing their badge, which is illegal. Enrique is probably going to talk about that as well. If someone is stopped and you see it, you can ask them to say, you can say, am I free to leave? And if you're detained by an ICE agent, you can do the same thing. Am I free to leave? And if they say yes, you can walk away slowly, quietly. If they don't say you're free, then you should ask them, why am I being stopped? I apologize, I was not told that I was not going to present the whole thing, so I'm trying to find the slides that are really important to you. This is what a signed warrant by a judge looks like. If they are trying to get into your house or business, it has to have the date, the correct date, a judge's signature. It has to have where it is, that's in the oval on the left, and it has to have the order. And if it does not have those things, then it is not a valid warrant. This is an administrative warrant. What has been happening is that people are getting kidnapped and then the ICE agents are writing an administrative warrant, which is illegal, but that is happening. But the trick is to always ask for a warrant. Okay. You should do these things and always, always, always don't Don't make stuff up. Don't say anything. Okay, you're going to talk about how Illinois, like, gives everyone a license and all those things? Go ahead. Okay. In Illinois, anyone can get a license, get access to city services, and they can get a way to not. I'm sorry, I had this all planned, and now I'm a little bit discombobulated. They can not be given, as my colleague said, they cannot, none of their information will be given to ICE. Okay. Anyone, including ICE agents, can be present in a public area, but that does not mean that they can stop and question you. If you're stopped by an immigration agent, again, you have the right to remain silent. You can also say, I don't want to talk to you. So it's not a consensual arrest if they do arrest you. Okay, at the workplace, it is best to have a private area where your employees can go and where your customers can go if ICE comes in, marked with privacy, because then ICE can't go there legally. This is for everybody, rapid responders and people who may be kidnapped. Please be sure to memorize a phone number and have it written on your arm if you can't remember it in Sharpie. I always have a phone number of someone to call because they might take your phone, whether you're a rapid responder or a kidnapped person. So it is best to memorize a phone number. And if you are getting kidnapped, to say that phone number out loud so rapid responders know who to call. This is where you can go to find your lost people, your kidnapped people. You need to either have their name and birthday and country of birth or their A number in order to find them in the system. The system moves very quickly. They're at Broadview 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and then they move to Kentucky, other places like that. And so we can track them if we have this information. I want to show you the useful vocabulary that we should all have in order to help our neighbors and help ourselves. If you speak Spanish, you should check it out in English. If you speak English, you should check it out in Spanish. Keep it on your phone so you can quickly access it. Okay, and I think my colleagues over there are going to talk about the emergency plan and all of that. So I'm going to turn it over to Enrique.
Okay, great. First of all, thank you for sharing all that information. Question for you. Are you guys going to be sharing those slides with the attendees? If you don't know the answer yet, that's fine.
No, I do know the answer. I'm sorry. ICER, I don't believe, wants us sharing the slide deck.
So then I'll recommend the attendees take pictures of it. It's very important that you know that.
Actually, we have slides from a previous Know Your Rights presentation that will be available at the City of Evanston's webpage under our Welcoming City webpage. So we will have some slides available for people. It's a much shortened version of Know Your Rights, and it is from the last session we had with ICER a couple of months ago.
Thank you so much, because it's really important that people can read this.
All right, everybody. So again, Enrique Espinosa, immigration attorney. So first of all, I want to thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being interested in this particular topic. Because if you think that this is something that is only impacting immigrants, you're wrong. This is impacting the entire community, whether you're an immigrant or not, whether you're documented or not. As my colleague just mentioned, we all have rights, despite of our immigration status, and we all need to recognize that. I welcome any questions from you when the time comes, even if they're contrary to what I'm going to say to you. so long as you bring the facts, okay? I like to talk with people that bring facts, and then we can have a educated conversation. So this is the way that I like to talk about the immigration situation right now and the things that people can do before, during, and after. Before, during, and after. What are the things that you can do in trying to be ready in the event that you are subject to one of these adverse immigration situations? Because let's be clear, even if you're here with documents, meaning even if you're here as a legal permanent resident, asylee, refugee, or as a citizen, you might be subject to this. We have seen it. We can see those videos. It just happened today in the city of Chicago, where they detained about 6 U.S. citizens. So I came from there. That's why I'm dressed like this. So I just want you to be aware of that. My colleague is going to be talking about the before, which is going to include about plans to protect your property and your family. I'm going to let her speak about that. The during that she already talked about. Everything that she said is correct, but let's just talk about what are the legal basis for everything that she said. Because everything is sustained on a legal basis. So if you are in an encounter with an officer, I don't even know whether they're ICE agents, FBI agents, DEA agents, or no agents at all, because we know that there's some bounty hunters over there that are just portraying themselves as agents. What are the things that you can do to protect yourself? I'm going to subdivide it into two. If you have documents, if you have a legal status, and if you don't. If you don't have a status, be quiet. That's the most difficult part to do, right? Just remain silent. And that's your right, it's your constitutional right of not incriminating yourself. You don't need to talk to them. It's the Fifth Amendment. Now, in reality, in the real world, a police cannot stop you just cause. Is that clear? The police cannot stop you just because. There has to be a reasonable, a probable cause for them to stop you. However, reality begs to differ. What we have seen right now is that they are targeting individuals that look like me, sounds like me, dress like me, or that they work in certain jobs that are considered to be for immigrants. Nevertheless, everybody that is in that surrounded area might be at risk. Give you an example. If you go to Home Depot, where they've been doing raids, and you're there just trying to get your drywall, the woods to do some construction in your house, you might be subject to that detention as well. So it's impacting everybody. And I want you to remember that. Everyone is at risk. So you can remain silent if you want to. It's your right. And if you don't have documents, I recommend not to say anything. Why? The more information you're providing to them, you're giving them more ammunition to create a case against you. And then when I need to show up, they probably already decide your case. And there's a lot of facts in it that I am not aware, and they're gonna try to use that against you if you're undocumented. So remain silent. The right about requesting an attorney, yes, we all have the right to request an attorney. The difference in immigration is that sadly the government is not gonna provide that to you. So you need to pay for your own attorney. Therefore, and I'm sure my friend will say that, and if not, I will interject, you need to have a plan in place. Who are you gonna call if that's the situation? If you're detained, does your family and friends know who to call? Because I cannot tell you how many calls I received from people that are saying, my family member has been detained. What do we do? And I don't know anything about their case. And then I need to rush everything. It's very difficult. So get a plan in place. So you can remain silent. You can request to speak and demand to speak with your attorney as soon as it's available for you, once they transfer you to a certain location. And also in reality, as I say, they don't supposed to stop you on the street just because. So questions that you can ask is, what are you stopping me for? Do you have a warrant? And then you wonder why do you need to ask that? Well, if you guys are following what's happening in the legal field, you realize that at least in Chicago, a judge just recently said that what they were doing was in violation of what was known as the Castañón-Nava Agreement, settlement. Raise your hands if you know what I'm talking about. Good. And thank you for being honest. So the Castañón-Nava Agreement basically was a settlement between the agency and 5 different states, where they agreed that they will not be continue doing arrest based on racial profiling, which is currently happening, right? They were supposed to present a warrant and have a probable cause to stop someone. That agreement expired in May. However, this administration took control in January, correct? And since January until today, they keep violating that agreement. And because we have proofs of that, the judge just extended all the way to February of 2026. If you're following what I'm saying, they just extended. But what we see on the streets is that they keep violating this order by a federal judge. Hence, it's very important that when somebody's being detained, we ask those questions that she was mentioning, right? Do you have a warrant? Because if you don't have a warrant, you are violating one of the many orders that a judge just gave you. Now, what are the things? That's for the ones that don't have documents, right? Quiet. Then ask if there's a warrant. There's not a warrant. Remain silent. And as soon as you're transferred to a detention center or a processing center, depending where they take you, then you can try to speak with your attorney. Now, if you do have documents and you are unfortunately subject of this adverse immigration situation, well, if you want to be me, you don't want to be me. But if you really want to just get away and just fix this easily, you can just identify yourself and show them that you are, in fact, a legal permanent resident, if you are, or a citizen, if you are. Legal permanent residents, you do need to carry your legal permanent resident card by law. I'm going to say that again. By law. Legal permanent residents need to carry their card by law. You probably saw in the news just recently that a gentleman was charged fine, $130 for not carrying that. Raise your hand if you saw that on the news. Quite a few. Let the record know. No, just kidding. So, and although that was not enforced, it is the law. So, being objective, I can say that he was supposed to carry that on. Reality is that in the past it was not required, it was not enforced, but it is the law. Now, if you are a citizen, whether you're a citizen by birth or by naturalization, you don't need to carry that. There's no statute or regulation or law that requires you to carry on that document. And I do know there's a lot of individuals out there that are concerned, and they're worried, and they're just trying to question themselves, should I just carry a copy? Should I bring my US passport? Should I bring my certificate of naturalization with me, or my birth certificate? By law, not needed. If that makes you feel more safe, be my guest. But you don't need to, by law, okay? Now, those are the individuals that are with documents and without documents that are having an interaction with immigration officers. But there's also individuals that are there observing, documenting things. You do have that, right? Well, she's so kind enough to pass some of the materials that they created. I didn't, which are very helpful. I'm going to tell you what are the things that I'm expecting you, if you feel comfortable, to document. First of all, it's very important that we know that we need to document all these things. Despite what we have seen in the media, and this lady, Noem, and the other lady whose name I don't want to remember, where she said, it is illegal to record agents because you're doxing them. It's actually legally, factually incorrect. You can do that. You can definitely record people. What are the things that you cannot do? You cannot obstruct and you cannot impede their job. I know that many of you might be tempted to jump in front of a car to avoid them to leave. Don't do that. I want to do that too, but don't do that. Because that's literally the definition of obstruction. Don't do that. Don't put yourself at risk. Please, be my guest.
Be sure when you're filming that your camera is horizontal.
All right, so not obstructing, and I explain why the horizontal part. The horizontal is because you are able to capture more. I'm going to get to that point in a little bit.
Really quick, I just, for the people that are on Zoom, our Zoom is full. We are streaming this event on Channel 16, our City of Evanston Channel 16. So if anybody on Zoom, if you want to go and check it out on Channel 16, feel free to do so. Or if you're getting questions from people that they cannot join on Zoom, let them know. Go to YouTube, Channel 16, City of Evanston channel.
Thank you. So the key here is that despite the fact that they're saying you cannot record and should not record, we need to do that. I'm going to give you a very clear example. The message that is out there portrayed by the government begs to differ quite a lot from what the evidence has shown. Quick examples. They showed, rest in peace, an immigrant not so long ago, and they said the immigrant was dragging the agents. The available videos differ from the story that they are portraying. Whether it's true or not, the second version of videos are proving something completely different. If we haven't had those videos, right now it will be only one version. Second story, on 40th and Ketsi, they say that the lady was they say that a group of cars were boxing them out, and that was the reason that they feel threatened, and that's the reason that they shot at this lady in 40th and Ketsi. The videos show something different, where the officer, in fact, say an explicit word, which I'm not say because it's going to be recorded, and it shows that perhaps they were the ones that start the shooting. If there were not videos, we will never know. I was part of that particular protest where our goal was just to make sure that everyone was safe, that everybody was acting within the law, the protesters and also the agents, with the whole goal that everybody will use their constitutional rights and they will be able to go back home. They shot at us. They tear gas at us. The story that they put in the news when they put their own statement, it was like people were attacking them. It was not true. I was there. They shot at us, they tear gas at us. But if we don't have those videos, we wouldn't know. It will be only one side of the story. So recording is very important. So the documents that she's passing around to you, I'm gonna tell you what are the things that I need you guys, if you feel comfortable, to do when you're recording. Please don't be next to these individuals. They won't respect the law. If you are at arm's reach, you're way too close. Even the most simple phones have a decent zoom. Please, do it at a safe distance. Now, I need you, if you feel comfortable when you're recording, to focus on the fact that whether they present a warrant, and you can ask, where is the warrant? 99.9% they won't even acknowledge you. But we need to get that on video, that they are not presenting a warrant. Ask for the warrant. Number two, focus on their faces. Not because I like to see their blue eyes. It's because the judge clearly says, you guys cannot wear masks unless you are in an undercover operation. And what they're carrying on are not undercover operations. They were supposed to go in for targets. Remember they said that? Remember they were going for criminals? Reality begs to differ. So again, make sure that when you record, you're showing that they're not wearing that they're wearing masks, if they're wearing masks. Now, a judge clearly says, you guys need to wear identifiers. Different rules from different positions. For the ones that are supervisor, they were supposed to wear their badge number, whatever, on the shoulder, left shoulder. Make sure you look at the left shoulder to see if it's in fact they're following the judge's instruction. And for just rank officers, they need to wear some identifiers written down on tape. Why, I don't know. But anyways, so we gotta make sure that we are able to film that. The horizontal part is important because we gotta make sure that we're covering as much as possible on those videos. Now, the document, if they are the ones that are initiating the confrontations, okay? Why? Because kudos to the city of Chicago and Evanston and everyone in Illinois that are remaining calm. And I can't say that enough. Thank you for acting in the way that you're supposed to act. It is difficult. It is more difficult to remain calm and under control under these situations. What they're trying to do is to instigate, to retaliate, and to make sure that there's a reaction. This was supposed to be an operation that should not last more than 45 days, and it's lasting longer. And my idea of that is because they haven't get what they want, which is us reacting violently against their action. Today was another evidence to show that that's what they want. They're coming around to the communities, picking anyone, chasing people, getting into private properties without a warrant, just with the whole intention to instigate that somebody will react. Remain calm. That's the most difficult part of all of this. Remain calm. Because eventually, when all of this comes down, where there's a change of administrations, there's going to be some lawsuits, perhaps, because we are gathering evidence that are showing that some individuals are violating constitutional rights. They're doing these detentions without a warrant, and they're discriminating individuals and attacking people just because of the way that they look. How can we do that? Gathering information, gathering evidence. So if you feel that what you're doing is not giving you any results, I want to remind you, this is a marathon. This is not going to be solved today, nor tomorrow. It's going to take some time to build up for this. Now, if you feel that the judge's instructions are not being followed and you are wondering, does it really matter what we're doing? Is it really creating an impact? I want to remind you that yes, it does. Even if you're not seeing that right now, there's a lot of judges out there that are not biased, that are following the law, that they're objective, and they're ruling against this individual and this administration. So be hopeful that the things are working. You might not see a big change right now because we're fighting against a big machine. But that's what they want. They want us to just give up. And we cannot do that. All right? So I'm going to stop in there because a bunch of things that I can talk, but I'm going to pass it along to my colleague.
Would you just pass me the remote? Hi, everyone. Just going to wait 1 second to get the PowerPoint changed.
And while the slides are in there, again, I have a lot of things to say. So if you guys have any questions after we're done with the presentations, feel free to ask me questions. Don't say anything specific about a case. If you know about a case, don't tell me all the details. Just in a general way, we can discuss some of the things that are happening. Okay?
What I gave you, I was expecting to have an interactive thing where you all practiced. The salute is a way for you to remember, it's a mnemonic device for you to remember when you're filming what to say and what to narrate. This is a really important thing to have because the more information you give, the more cases, or the more chances there are to have lawsuits because people's rights are getting violated. We need to be sure to document everything that's going on. We also need to document when there's peaceful things. Please be sure to do that as well because we want to show if the National Guard does come or whoever comes that we are peaceful humans.
Okay. So once again, good evening, everyone. My name is Emma Soglin. I'm a legal fellow focusing on immigration at the Moran Center for Youth Advocacy here in Evanston. If you're not familiar, the Moran Center is a holistic, integrated legal aid, restorative justice, and a social work agency that's been in the community for over 40 years. I just started this fall as a full-time bilingual immigration attorney. And as a disclaimer, the Moran Center's current immigration services are very limited, as I am the entire immigration team. But if you have questions or have someone to refer, my contact information is going to be at the end of this presentation. The Moran Center has, been working to address this urgent immigration need since before this administration took office, our staff has deepened their knowledge on how to serve this community, and our website has extensive resources on Know Your Rights and family safety planning. I'm going to point you to those resources today, and we're going to walk through a couple of key steps for what you can do to protect your family before an immigration or federal enforcement action takes place. Okay, I don't think this is working, so can someone just move the next slide? Thank you. It's not doing it. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So first, we're just going to talk about what is safety planning generally and why is it important. So everyone here has the same concern, which is to keep families together, and it's such a critical need right now in our community. And I understand, because I am in conversations every day with families trying to safety plan, that it can be a really, really difficult conversation to have. It's difficult to even think about what could happen if you had an interaction in your family or if you have a loved one detained or abducted. But it's really important to think about it beforehand and have a written plan in place, because it's much, much harder to navigate in the aftermath of an emergency than beforehand. So we urge all families that are potentially vulnerable for federal immigration enforcement to have a written safety plan that is in a safe, secure, and accessible location, and including, if they have children, minors under the age of 18, to complete a temporary guardianship form. And this safety plan that we're going to discuss today has lots of materials about what documents to collect and where to store those. There we go. So all of this information is available on our website. It's the moran-center.org. And then you can go to Know Your Rights on the top bar, scroll down to where it says immigration. The safety planning document that I'm going to talk about first is right there where that little yellow arrow is. There's also some copies of the safety planning documents in English and Spanish on the back table. And I urge everyone to look into this after the presentation. I'm going to walk through all of these documents. The first thing I think that's really important is to know that you do not need an attorney to create a safety plan. You do not need an attorney to fill out a temporary guardianship form. If you don't have a safety plan in place, you can start that conversation tonight. And I think it's really important to start doing that, right? So the first step here on this guide, which is again also on our website and in the back, is to identify your emergency contact. That's the person that, upon an emergency or an abduction, who would pick your child up from school and explain to them what happened. We're going to talk extensively about temporary guardianship in a moment. Your emergency contact may be the same person as the temporary guardian, but it also may not be. It's going to depend on a couple different circumstances that we can discuss in a second. Something that's crucial is that everyone in the family memorizes the contact information for your emergency contact. And this should also be someone who is attentive, that is likely to pick up their cell phone at any hour of the morning, day, or night. And even for small children, work on memorization of a number of a safe emergency contact. The next key point is to designate a temporary guardian if you have a child. Temporary guardian is distinct from an emergency contact because this is someone who's going to be making day-to-day decisions about the care and well-being of your child in the case that you are unavailable due to deportation, detention, or some other reason. So this has to be a trusted adult, right? This has to be someone that you would trust to make legal, medical, educational decisions for your child if you're detained. And that person also has to be willing and available to step in as temporary guardian. We'll talk more about that in depth. The next piece that I want to mention, which I'll just move forward to this next slide. This is the second part of the safety plan on our website. This is the document with key information. You don't have to use this document. The idea is just starting to think about information about each of your family members and putting that information in a safe place. So here on this document, we have full name, some information, medical information, citizenship status, contact information, where they work, all sorts of things that if something happens and they go missing, it would be really important for a trusted person to have. After you fill out these documents, you need to give these documents to a trusted person. Make copies for your emergency contact, make copies for the temporary guardian that you designate. We don't suggest giving this to schools just because there's confidential information on there. If you do fill out a temporary guardianship form, you can give that to the schools. That's a great thing for schools to have. But going back to this next sheet, the next thing that's really important in a safety plan is keeping your important documents in a secure and accessible place. And these documents should be more than just, your birth certificate, but think about any identification document. Do you have a consular ID, a driver's license, birth certificates, social security numbers, work permits, medical records, any information pertaining to property that you own and that you would like someone to be able to do something with upon your detention. Also, just any sort of financial information, including bank accounts, tax records, or powers of attorney. All of those documents should be in a safe place. We really recommend that you keep the originals in one secure location in your home and keep copies in a different location. I strongly urge you to digitize all of your documents if you can, and have copies on your phone as you're out and about. The other thing is that people need to know where those documents are, right? So make sure your emergency contact knows where your secure documents are. Make sure your temporary guardian knows where important documents are. Make sure your children know where the important documents are. And make sure it's in a clear and secure and accessible place. Excuse me. Okay. The last thing on this list is just to carry important contact information. I strongly urge everyone to save the ICER Family Support Network number, which I'm sure you've seen absolutely everywhere. But on top of that, think about who are the trusted individuals in your lives who you would like to call in case of an emergency, whether that be your teachers of your children, a lawyer, a trusted community organization, your faith institution, the consulate of your country of origin. Keep all those numbers on you. And then finally, as I just mentioned, distribute your safety plan. Safety plan is only as strong as who has access to it or who knows about it. So make sure you get that to trusted individuals. Okay, now we're going to move on to talk about temporary guardianship. And before, I'm just going to very briefly go over what is guardianship and why it's important as part of a safety plan if you have children. So a guardian is a legal tool that parents can use to give temporary daily parental rights and responsibilities over a child to another adult. Designating a temporary guardian does not terminate anyone's parental rights. It essentially adds an additional person who can also make day-to-day decisions. Short-term guardianship, which you can find on our website and is also on that back table in English and Spanish, can be done out of court without an attorney and lasts for a year. Permanent guardianship is a whole different process that is throughout the court, and you would get an order by a judge that can last much longer than a year, but it would remain in effect until the judge orders its end. What are the responsibilities of a guardian? This is really important as you think about who in your life could potentially be a temporary guardian for your child. It involves day-to-day caretaking responsibility and decision-making. So a guardian has to agree to carry out the family's safety plan and maintain the child's essential needs and care, including medical care, education, housing, clothing, food, and caretaking of the child's physical, mental, and emotional needs. Who can be a guardian? Really, in the state of Illinois, anyone can be a temporary guardian as long as they follow these requirements on the screen. But a guardian should be someone that the family trusts, and ideally someone that has a relationship with the child. It's obviously not always possible, but it's important. The person must be 18 years or older. They must be an adult. Crucially, they must consent to the guardianship. So if you have a neighbor that you really like, but they don't want to be the guardian of your child, you really have to get their consent before you sign them up as their temporary guardian. They have to reside in the United States, preferably someone with a stable immigration legal status. It's by no means required that that person has immigration status, but if possible, we recommend that the temporary guardian have immigration status, because otherwise there could be a domino effect with safety planning where you have to create a safety plan for the safety plan. The next requirement is that the person has to have mental capacity. They have to be of sound mind. And then the next two, that they have no felony convictions and no convictions for crimes that resulted in harm or threat to a child, including sexual abuse, are less important for the actual temporary guardianship form, but they're really, really important if that temporary guardianship needed to become long-term support, because as part of the court-ordered guardianship process, a guardian cannot have a felony conviction or any conviction for a crime relating to harm to a child. If the best person to be the temporary guardian happens to have one of these types of conviction, that's fine. Just would need to also be part of the safety plan to think of who would then be the permanent guardianship if the court process is necessary. What is temporary guardianship? So temporary guardianship is an Illinois-specific statute and a statutory form that designates who would care for the child. And we're really lucky here in Illinois that this form exists, because we're able to designate a temporary guardianship upon a triggering event, such as a detention or a removal. It's a very simple form. It's very, very easy. Like I said, you do not need an attorney. You do not need a notary. And keep hearing about people trying to charge $200 to fill out these forms. Please do not pay anyone any money to fill out these forms. You can do them on your own. All you need is signatures from one of the parents of the child, 2 witnesses, and then a designated guardian. And as I mentioned earlier, again, this form does not need to go through any sort of legal process. It's binding upon the signature of all the parties, which means that in order for it to be effective, you need to make sure that it's in the hands of the right people. So it needs to be filed with the child's school, given to the designated guardian, and stored securely with all the other documents that I just talked about in your safety plan. Some pros and cons of short-term guardianship. The pros, already talked about this quite a bit, but there's no court, no lawyer needed. It can last up to a year, and it lasts up to a year based not on the date that it was signed, but based on the date of the specific triggering event. So if on your form you write that this temporary guardianship does not go into effect unless you are detained or deported, then you would have a year from the date that the triggering event occurred for the temporary guardianship to be valid, not the date that it was signed. The guardianship can also be terminated at any time. If someone gains legal status, for example, then there's no longer a need for a temporary guardianship, and it can very easily be terminated. And it's easy and flexible. And again, it does not need to be notarized. Some cons with temporary guardianship is that guardians have had some issues obtaining certain public benefits, such as SNAP, with using that form. That should not be the case, and folks are advocating about that, but just to be, so everyone is aware, there has been some issues with that in the past. Again, it only lasts for a year, which means you'd have to renew it a year after the effective date or pursue permanent guardianship through the court process. And then the final thing is that if only one parent signs the short-term guardianship, then the other parent could revoke that guardianship at any time. Okay, we're going to go step by step through short-term guardianship. And again, this is on the moran-center.org under Know Your Rights, Immigration, and it's also in the back of the room. This is page 1. People have common questions about how to fill out this form. So page 1, question 1, name of the parent completing the form, address of the parent completing the form, full legal name of the minor. A key thing that we get questions about a lot is whether you can put more than one child on a form, and the answer to that is no. Please complete a different form per child. Then the next question is about who the guardian is going to be, which is just the name of the person and their address. You are welcome to include more information on that line, like their contact information, their phone number, but legally, for it to be effective, all you need is name and address. And this next question on page 2 is the effective date. So we recommend that for the purpose of family safety planning for immigration purposes, that you choose the other option and write something along the lines of, on the date that I'm detained by immigration enforcement, if I am arrested by federal officials, something like that. The next question is termination. So the most that a temporary guardianship can last from the effective date is 1 year, 365 days. We recommend that you check this first box on the temporary guardianship form, which basically says that the guardianship will terminate on the date that the parent states in writing that they're once again able to make out and carry on day-to-day child caring activities and decisions. But no matter what, it's not more than a year after the effective date. The next part, also on page 3, is the date and signature of the appointing parent or guardian. You only need one parent to sign for a valid temporary guardianship form. Both parents are welcome to sign, obviously, but you only need one parent. The key thing is that the parent's signature needs to be witnessed by 2 unrelated adults. So they have to be 2 adults who are not named on the form. They cannot be either the guardian or the parents. The witnesses need to only witness the signature of the parent, not of the guardian. So the guardian can sign later as long as 2 witnesses saw the parent and can attest to the fact that the parent signed. Also on page 3, this is where the short-term guardian must sign. So again, does not need to be witnessed by the 2 witnesses, but the short-term guardian does need to sign in order for the guardianship to be effective. The last part on page 4 asks for the consent of the child's other parent. This is not necessary if the parent is unavailable or deceased. And again, the short-term guardianship is effective with just the signature of one parent. One thing that is important to note is that if there are 2 parents that have parental rights or one parent doesn't have full legal custody of the child, and the other parent is both available and does not consent to the temporary guardianship, then you cannot use this form. Okay. Couple final reminders. This is really, really, really important, and I'm going to say this a couple times. We have copies of this form in English and Spanish on our website. Only the English form is binding. We have the Spanish form because we want folks to be able to understand what they are signing and understand the implications of this document. But unfortunately, under the statute, only the form in English is binding. So whenever I fill out a temporary guardianship form with people that are Spanish speaking, I fill it out for them, 2 copies of each document in English and Spanish. Both of those documents are going to go into their safety plan, but only the English one can be used for decisions in the future. Okay. Again, guardianship does not end a parent's right to choose or make any decisions about their families and their children, and you do not need a lawyer, notary, or a court to make a short-term guardian. Really quickly, don't have time to go into this much today. I just wanted to talk about another issue that's important and point you all to some resources. People have been asking quite a bit about what plan should be in place regarding people's property upon abduction. And power of attorney for property is a legal document that would allow someone else to temporarily manage property decisions for homes, bank accounts, cars, any sort of property that people have. Again, this is part of safety planning, which means this has to be done before someone is abducted. But I'm going to point you to 2 different resources here today, and feel free to take a screenshot of this. The first one is Organized Communities Against Deportation, has a family preparedness package on power of attorney for property. It's a step-by-step guide of how to do this. And then Our friends over at the North Suburban Legal Aid Clinic and SLAC have a free power of attorney for property clinic that is specifically for folks who are at risk for detention or deportation. And that is an additional protection that, especially if you own your home or own a car, that you should do. Okay, this is the contact information for the Moran Center. Again, we have limited immigration legal services that is emphasizes youth and is focused on youth. You are welcome to call our main hotline, that 847 number, to refer a family. Please visit our website for all of the materials that I talked about today. My email is right there, Emma Soglin. Underneath that is our amazing managing attorney, Megan McClung. Please feel free to email either of us with any questions.
Let me just add a few things that are important for the preparation plan. So number one, if the individual thinks that he's going to be subject to potentially one of these adverse immigration situations, aka being deported, being placed on detention with a risk to be deported, and they have kids, if you have friends, remind them that it will be important for them to get a passport for the country of origin of their parents, even if they were born in here, even if the little ones are U.S. citizens, right? Get a passport. It's important to get a passport. And if they can get the dual citizenship for the country of origin of their parents, suggest them to get them. It makes it easier for somebody to help them get them together if they need to travel with the kids. It's very difficult to do it when the parent is in detention or when the parent is being deported. So getting passports, it's a must with the safety plans. Now, I know my colleagues here have said that you can do it on your own and you don't need an attorney or what have you, which is true. But you need to know what you sign in. And you need to understand what are the powers that you're giving to someone. So I get it that a lot of people don't want to go and pay for an attorney. And we do, in fact, a lot of workshops where we do it for free. And we got people that do family law, no immigration law. I do immigration law, but people that do family law that can explain them in details, all the things that are involved with this. It's important that when you sign a document such as this one, number one, you know the person that you're giving this power to. You're giving them a lot of power. You don't want to give them power to somebody that's going to manage your bank accounts or your properties, and they can take advantage of that. Same thing goes with the situation with kids. So be mindful about what document you're signing, ask about it, and make sure that the people that you are giving these powers to are someone that you really trust. Now, she did mention about the language. Now, what they just mentioned in there, the trigger language is what it starts the document, right? The documents, you can start it at the moment that you sign in if you want to, or it can be started upon the occurrence of a situation. For the purposes of what we do regarding to adverse immigration situations, we add the language that she was saying, a little bit more complex. We put a little bit more details into it just because we're going to try to protect and make sure that the people are going to make this document valid. But what she said is very important. The triggering language is going to be important. Now, another question that people have is, okay, and how do I terminate this document, right? And that's an important thing too. That's where you need to go with someone that knows what they're signing, okay? Yes, you can find the form there, but you need to understand how can you revoke those powers from the individual that you've given them to. Whether you need to go to the agencies that the document was presented, or just by giving them to the, one is an agent, the other one is, what is the other one?
For the power
of
attorney, agent, or
the principal, right? So you need to make sure that if you need to do certain steps in order to take away that power from the individual. So please, 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 this is an important document, but find someone that will explain you that into details. It's not just a document that you can just sign, and this is it. So talk about the language, how to terminate, whether you want to do it on your own, get passports. I think that's all what I want to just add to it.
Really quick, there are a couple of questions that we have gotten on our chat that before we go on, I wanted to make sure that we addressed. One of the questions is, what's the difference between ICE and reward chasers? Did someone make?
They're probably referring to the bounty hunters. So let's be clear, right? The ones that were supposed to enforce actions against someone that is allegedly in violation of immigration law was ICE. Those were the ones that were supposed to do that. CBP are the ones that are at the border and they're just screening people that are coming in. FBI is supposed to be saving us for other things. DEA is supposed to be saving us from other stuff. Right now, they're gathering all of that power, putting it into one thing only, enforcing immigration law. In addition to that, in order for them to try to carry on with the promise of 3,000 individuals being detained daily, they're just hiring anyone. So hence, it's very important that we document, we try to get identifications from those individuals. Because despite the fact that even if you are a federal agent, you are still abide by the Constitution, and if you violate the Constitution, you cannot face lawsuits, even more for those individuals that are portraying to be federal agents, and they're not. All right? What we have seen on the streets are that they are taking actions that if a city police would have done, they will be in so much troubles already. So, to going back to your question, you can look at the badges that they have. The reality is nowadays they're trying to hide any information that they have. So just record, try to do to zoom ins to see if there's name badge and whatnot. That's it. Te salud.
Just want to ask these questions because they go in line with the presentation. Really quick, one. Is there a place where people willing to be temporary guardians can sign up to connect with those who may not have someone that they can that have designees?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. I think because it's such a personal relationship, I am not aware of any sort of network where people can sign up. I think the key is really wanting to have a relationship with the family so that there's enough trust that this is someone that you would feel safe making decisions. So I think even if there was some sort of network, there would have to be relationship building before you would agree to sign a temporary guardianship away to a stranger, even the most well-intentioned person.
I just became aware of a sign up for a response team for people to click and sign up about what level of support they want to provide. And I'll give that to you before I leave. I'm trying to bring that up, but it's already within the city for other means and issues, not just this. So there's actually a registration for that in place.
Thank you. And I do want to remind people that we are going to be posting a lot of this information, if it's not already, on our Welcoming City page of the City of Evanston. One question that's being asked quite a bit is, if I shows up at your door looking for someone with a deportation order, can you not open the door?
No, you don't open the door. Let's be clear. She showed a very important document, and I don't know if we can go back to that slide, at least to get them in there. There's two types of documents, okay? One is a judicial warrant, one is an administrative warrant. One is being on a public space, one is being in a private space. Your house is your sanctuary, it's private property. If you're a business owner, your business is your sanctuary. You decide who comes in and who comes out. Well, no, you need to let out whomever wants to leave. Anyways, I was just referring to the fact that you can restrict who will come into your private property. Remember that. Today I saw that in action. An individual that's an owner of a laundry mat location, within his rights, say, you know what, I don't feel safe if you coming into my property, I'm not gonna give you access to it. Within his rights. And ICE was not allowed in. So if you're a business owner, you can deny access to individuals if you don't feel like they're gonna put yourself in danger, or they're gonna put your customers in danger. So if somebody shows up to your door in your home and they don't have a judicial warrant, you can tell them, you're waiting for that, but I'm not gonna say it, but you can tell them that they can come back when they have the right documents, okay?
It's right here again, if you didn't get a picture of it.
Now, a judicial warrant is very difficult to be obtained. A judicial warrant has to be signed for the judge. In order for the judge to sign a document, he has to have certainty the individual is in that location. And that is warrant to provide this document because the person is a risk to fly, to escape, and it's a danger to the community. It's extremely difficult for them to get it. What they usually present When they do present something, it's just an administrative warrant that do not allow them the rights to get into your house or force their interest into the house. So if they come with that, calmly tell them, slide it under the door, let me see it. They won't do that because it's not. Tell them, show that through the window. They won't do it because it's not. But if you don't have the document, you can just come back when you have the right document, and you have the right to deny them access into your private property. Remember, that is super important. Even for employers in your business, you can tell them, no, thank you. Bring the right document. I'll see you another time.
And with that, if a homeowner allows, say somebody comes up to them, whether a landscaper or somebody, and says to them, hey, can I go into your house? Can you provide me some coverage or safety, and the person allows them to come into their home before ICE approaches, is this obstruction? Is this considered obstruction?
Right, she went and put me on the spot. So
That's why you're the attorney.
That's what my title says. Anyway, so the reality is this. So I will make an argument, right? I will make an argument that if they're really carrying on a target operation, right? I will make that argument. That if you really carry on a target operation, you have a warrant that it says that you're going against, for example, me. Let's just say my name. And if my friend is seeing that they're chasing me, and they have a warrant, and my friend let me into her property, probably she is obstructing the completion of a target operation. But what I have seen on the streets is that they just exit the car and start chasing people, particularly the ones that start running. That to me doesn't sound like this a target operation. And if I see a bunch of individuals that are masked, that are carrying guns, chasing people on the street, my first reaction is trying to protect my community. Now, if they get into my property or they say, I'm looking for that particular person, sure, where is your warrant? Because this is supposed to be a target operation. How do I know, a civilian, that these individuals are not there to kidnap them? How do I know that? If they are in fact agents, and if they are in fact carry on a target operations, they should have the documents to prove that. And if at that point I see that, okay, well, you have a warrant for this individual that is in my house that I just let in because I thought it was in danger, I need to comply. If you have the right document. But if you don't, I will make the argument that I'm looking at individuals that are chasing somebody, they're carrying guns, their faces are covered, I'm protecting them. Then if they have the right documents, then we'll deal with that. That will be my argument.
Thank you. Those are the only questions I have from the chat so far. Allison, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just really wanted to ask those questions because they went in line with the current presentations.
That's fine. It's actually a good segue because I can answer, I will be able to answer part of one of the questions. So there is an organization, a community organization called Sanctuary Evanston, and some of you may be here because you've heard about it through Sanctuary Evanston. They are a community group of volunteers who were organized in January of 2025, and initially were really focused on making sure that the schools were prepared for what was coming. It's become more of sort of a citywide effort, and there are a number of different parts of the organization. So one is there's a confidential and trained group of vetted rapid responders who do respond to ICE sightings in the area very quickly and try to document it and make sure that rights aren't violated, or document when rights are violated so that maybe it can be used in deportation defense afterward. And this may be the organization that you were talking about that you saw a link to. So that rapid response team is very busy and are headed out all the time, all day long. The group is currently covering Evanston, but also Skokie, Niles, Morton Grove, Lincolnwood, kind of all over the place. If there's members that are nearby that can get to places, they will go there. They also have a mutual aid network that is set up to be able to support families that are impacted, to give rides to school, rides to appointments, gift cards, go grocery shopping, meet the needs of community members who are impacted and maybe are economically impacted or are afraid to leave home. And there are people who would be willing to take kids in. There's a lot of people who have said that they would. But obviously that is a very relational thing. And so it would be really important for people to know a family and for a family to feel that they would trust a person. And so it's not something we would just be like, sign this, check this box, and you can take a kid in. It's a lot more complicated than that. But that is a thing that people are willing to do. The rapid response team is also available to patrol events. If there's an event where there's vulnerable community members, they will be stationed outside to walk around the perimeter, and if ICE is cited, to make sure that the event is locked down. There are also people who are trained in how to fill out the paperwork that Emma was just talking about. So there are people who can help families fill that paperwork out. So the form that you probably saw, there's a Google form to fill out. There is a vetting and onboarding process because it's really important for people to be known and trusted community members because this is pretty vulnerable information. There's also a signal channel now that has been started that is public ICE Watch, and so if people are interested in that and not getting more involved or being in the vetting process, it's called the Migra Watch Salt Crew because salt melts ice. So that is around, and I have QR codes that people can scan to join that if you're interested. The group has also organized to help workplaces be trained and prepared. So there have been some trainings for workplaces. And there's also a business alert channel on Signal. So if information of ICE happens, it can be spread very quickly through the business community. Yeah, I guess that's, donations. Sorry, the group is also taking donations. Evanston Latinos is the fiscal sponsor. Did that turn off? Oh, sorry. You can make a donation directly to Evanston Latinos, and in the very last part of the donation, there's a line where it says, where do you want your donation designated? Write the word sanctuary, and it'll be designated for the mutual aid efforts. The choice to become a part of a rapid response team is a very personal choice, and there are different levels of risk that people need to evaluate for themselves. The work is emotionally exhausting, and the people who are involved in rapid response, I try to keep a low profile. So I'm hearing all this from people who are in rapid response. I'm just the messenger. But the people who have been involved, not so much in Evanston, but there are people who have been arrested, tear gassed, pepperballed, followed home, led home by ICE agents who somehow knew their home address, harassed, threatened, guns pointed at them. It's been really horrific. And so it is something that people need to really evaluate if they're able to participate in that. And generally information about it is not spread super publicly. Oh, guess we're on YouTube, so it is now. Hi to my son if he's watching, because he's on YouTube, and I did send him the link. So yes, things that anybody can do, whether you're a part of Sanctuary Evanston, part of the SALT crew, part of anything, anybody can record. As we learned, you have the right to record. Anybody can notify the hotline. If the rapid response team is aware and responding, then the hotline actually doesn't need to be called because the hotline is connected to the rapid response team and reports go to the rapid response team and then they go deploy. But if they've already received it from the community, which is usually how they receive it faster, then it doesn't need to be sent out to the hotline. The rapid response team will report back to the hotline what information was found. Videos really can help with deportation defense, so it's important to document it. Other things you can do is chalk sidewalks with the FSN hotline number. You can participate in the mutual efforts that are being launched around town and donate money, of course. And if you have landscapers or housekeepers or people who might be vulnerable by coming to your house, if you're able to pay them to not come, pay them to not do the work, that would be wonderful as well. I think that's all I have.
I have one more thing to say. We prepared a list. If one other thing that you can do is walk around. Be present in your neighborhood, wear a whistle, and walk around. And so we're going to ask you if you're willing to do that, just to sign your name, give us your signal name, and sign, yes, I can walk around with a couple people, or I can't commit right now, because we can all help our neighbors just by being outside.
I forgot two really important things, sorry. There are community groups that are forming around each school. If you're a member of a school community, and there's signal channels for that, so that can be reached through the Sanctuary Evanston Signal World, or through members of the school community who already have a part of it. And if you're interested in being a community member who helps to patrol Home Depot, Angie is here. Where did Angie go? There's Angie.
Can you stand up?
So Angie is helping to organize shifts at Home Depot, and would have some more information about that. And that is a really great thing to do, because that is a very vulnerable location.
Allison, you mentioned getting involved with these groups, a hotline number. Can you just say what's the best way to reach out to them? I mean, I know you're mentioning them. Is there a number to contact through a web page?
There is no web page, because, like I said, that's a low profile, but I can give a link to a Google form that people can fill out, and I will have a QR code, and then I can give it to you to send as a follow-up to people on the Zoom.
Okay.
It's being spread around, I know. There's
May I?
700.
I think it's quite
community
important for this thing. So, number one, we all need to remember this. Even if you're doing legal stuff, you are at risk. Okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If you are doing the legal stuff, you are also at risk, and you need to understand that, right? But if we don't do that, the ones that are acting within the law, who is going to do it, right? Our community relies on the people that are able to go and do it. But be mindful that you are also at risk, even if you're doing the right things. And also, you need to do what is a risk assessment, right? There are individuals that are more risk than others. So if you are on the Zoom, or you are in this room, and you're feeling that you're not doing much because you're not on the streets, don't worry. There's many ways that you can collaborate. Just reach out to the people. Sometimes it's by going to the schools and just watching, reporting, video recording. Sometimes it's just by being at your house, helping with any other things. There's many ways that we can all help, but we got to do a risk assessment. Not everyone is at the same risk. And even the ones that are doing the right thing and acting within the boundaries of the law, we are all at risk. But again, if we don't do it, who's going to do it? It's quite important that we remember that.
And I do want to point out that I think on social media, there's a lot of like groups that are organizing. You can do a search via your neighborhood page or your city. I know Allison pointed to this, but there are a lot of organizations that also need that financial help, especially those that are supporting, whether it's street vendors or other businesses that right now are being targeted. Financial support is greatly needed. And I know that there's groups that are also putting together whistle kits. So again, this is all going through social media. I did want to point out, and apologies for not saying that sooner, we do have in the back little packets together, whistle kits with Know Your Rights cards. For businesses, we also have signs that says ICE is not welcome here. Businesses are private businesses. That's actually one of the questions that we're getting. If I have a business, whether it's a salon or a bakery, and somebody wants to come in, are the people inside my business protected? And want to point out that not only do we have flyers for businesses in the back, they're also available on our website. And then we'll start with questions in the group. But for businesses, what rights do they have if they have someone in their business and say, ICE shows up, can they tell federal agents that they're not welcome, or what are the rules around that?
Yeah, so this depends a little bit on the nature of the business. ICE can walk into any public space, right? So if a space is open to the public and community members can walk in, ICE can also walk in. I think one of the other presenters mentioned that it's really important, if you do have a business, to have some sort of public-private space distinction, so that if there's, say you have a salon and there's a back room, make sure that the signage around your business designate and indicates that whatever portion of your business is private, is close to the public. There are plenty of resources. You just mentioned on the City of Evanston website where you can find signage that says pretty explicitly, like CBP or federal agents are not authorized to come in here. They are not authorized to enter without a judicial warrant. I would also recommend, just like we just talked about with the safety planning for families, that businesses also have a safety plan, which involves designating a specific person at the agency to interact with federal agents if they do come. There's lots of resources on this online. The National Immigration Legal Council has really good stuff. But I think really the key is, if you are a business owner, to think through emergency contact numbers for potentially vulnerable employees so that you can reach people's families if folks are abducted. And then also a step-by-step plan of who is going to be interacting with federal agents, who's authorized to speak to federal agents. If one person is authorized to speak to federal agents, then no one else is allowed to speak to federal agents. And then really the public-private space distinction is key, with clearly posted signage. If you can have a locked door, even a chain, that's really helpful as well.
Hi, everyone. Like I said, my name is Angie. I'm the Suburban Outreach Specialist for Unión Latina. We're an organization that advocates for labor rights of day laborers and domestic workers, household workers. And one of the things that we've noticed is that we've been able to pull together, like we said, a group of volunteers that patrols different Home Depots throughout the Cook County area. And we've seen that that's definitely put a deterrent in the confidence of ICE agents coming in and thinking they can come after our most vulnerable. However, because I specialize specifically in the suburban areas, it's been really hard to find that coverage, right? Protecting our most vulnerable. And so I know the city of Chicago had a event, a town hall event, where community members could come and they could organize around different ways, and they can in which they can organize and to protect their respective communities against ICE enforcement. So I was wondering, from the city level with the city of Evanston, I think it would be a great idea for you guys to spearhead that need for the city to organize and pull together the care and the energy from the community. We're right here, so you can see that there is effort, energy, and care that the community is willing to give to our most vulnerable. So that's something that I was wondering if you guys knew, the city of Evanston was if they could spearhead an event like that to bring community members together, so that different organizations, different efforts, different people who are spearheading these initiatives can attend to.
From the city perspective, we're here to support our residents through education and providing as much information as we can. We are happy to provide a space and allow these organizations to come in together to organize again, just to come together and connect. We are not the experts in the subject. That's why we bring speakers, but we can definitely help facilitate just gatherings together of different organizations that have a common goal. Are there any other people with questions?
Yeah, I'm Skip, connected with Sanctuary Evanston. I was at Home Depot today talking to some people. Oh, sorry. If the city is saying, ICE, you are not allowed on our property, could the day laborers who are looking for jobs at Home Depot move across the street? Is that city property where the old recycling center was?
That's something we would have to get legal advice on. I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that at the moment.
Hi. Is it easier to, yeah, it's easier with a mask. Okay. Hi, I'm Hannah. I have a question for the immigration legal people on the council. I work at a school in the city for adult students, for like, specifically adult international students who are on F1 student visas. I'm having a lot of my students come to me very scared and they're not sure what exactly to do. And unfortunately, the administration of the school is not super helpful. So I would like to know sort of what I can tell them when they come to me asking, oh, what should I do? What should I go out with? What should, like, I'm scared to come to class. If you have any advice at all, I know that's very vague.
Well, I can tell you a few things, right? Because I work in a school. So what you are describing is something that I experience frequently too. So I'll divide it into two, the ones that have a status and the ones that don't. We're going back to the same principles that we spoke before. If you have a valid legal status as an F1 student, understandably you feel the fear because you don't know whether you're going to be the next one, right? Because as we saw at the beginning of this administration, they start canceling visas without any advice or any notice. But I would say out of the two, they are at the least risk, right? If they are detained, the goal is for them to prove that they are here in a legal status by showing them that I am an F1 student and my visa allows me to be here. And once they show that, they should be let go. They might be detained for a little bit, but they should let go. Now, they're hypothetical speaking, there are other students that perhaps their status already expired or their visas were revoked and they were never reinstated. If that's the case, my advice for them is seek legal counsel. See if there's any other legal relief that you might be eligible for. Could be asylum, could be another legal relief, if any, right? One of the things that I want to remind the ones on Zoom and the one here in the audience is it's easier when you seek a legal advice before you need it, right? You got more chances to explore different options than try to rush everything in a lapse of 2 to 3 weeks when you are being moved to different locations. My colleague just explained to you that people are being moved very fast, and they are. If they're detained in Chicago, they're moved to Broadview. Within 2 days, they're moved to Indiana, Minnesota, Kansas, New Orleans, Texas, Kentucky. It is real. So I will say, seek legal advice if you feel that you are a danger so that you can try to explore legal alternatives if there's any. Sometimes there's none. So recommend them to go with an attorney that can be honest and objective in their answer, in their assessment.
I was just trying to get. Hi. I was just trying to get some clarity. If a person is recording an abduction, should we ask the person being abducted their name and a phone number that we can call on their behalf? Or if someone's supposed to remain silent, should we not be asking their name?
Great question, because this is the confusion, right? We say, don't say anything. But at the same time, we're telling the others, ask them these questions. It's kind of confusing. So the idea is this. Sometimes, sadly, recording the abduction, because that's what it is, of someone is the only way that some of the relatives can figure it out. Something happened to my friend, my family, my relative. So it's important that we know that information about their names, because with that information, we can try to look for them on the system. Mm-hmm. The ICE locator requires, if you have the A number, you just use the A number or the country of origin. That's it. But if you don't have the A number, you need the full legal name, the date of birth, and the country of origin. So we ask those questions, because sometimes we are the only ones at the scene and the only one that can pass the information to the loved ones so they can try to locate them. Sometimes those individuals are here on their own. And you are the only one that is going to be there to probably provide information to an organization that is going to try to help them. So just be mindful. The idea of not speaking is trying to make the agency do their work, right? So that they can figure it out, the information. Eventually, when they're moved to a processing center or detention center, they will have to disclose that, their name, the country of origin, the date of birth. The reason that we say you need to ask those things is to facilitate the location of that individual. Otherwise, it's going to be moved within 24 hours to probably 2 or 3 locations.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Of course. The A number, it's a number that you are being assigned when, one, you have an interaction already with immigration enforcement, meaning if you were detained at the border, or sometimes when you apply for any relief or any application with USCIS, which is the immigration agency. If you are petitioned for your loved one, the loved one will be assigned an A number. If you were detained at the border, you were assigned an A number. Usually the A number, it's a 9-digit number. For the people that have had interactions in the past years ago, it's an 8-digit number. And when you have the 8-digit number, you need to know that you need to put a 0 at the beginning, because you need to input 9 numbers when you're trying to locate that person in the ICE locator.
And then I had just another question. When ICE is abducting someone, do they ask if they have children and if there is a temporary guardian that should be called? Are they getting like that type of, are they being asked any questions about who's at home?
Well, so this is the thing. I think it would be nice if they ask if they have good intentions. But in fact, they do ask with bad intentions. In fact, they do ask, but with bad intentions. This is what they usually do. So, where is your husband? Where is your wife? Where are your kids? Where's your country of origin? Do you have papers? So they do ask questions. And that's what we say, remain silent, right? Try not to say more information where you can create a collateral damage or put somebody else at risk. I haven't seen them asking questions with the idea to protect the kids.
Okay.
We all saw videos where they did in a family where minors were left behind. So their intentions are not to protect them. At least the evidence points in that direction. But they do ask questions with bad intentions.
Thank you.
A couple questions over here. Let me.
And then after this, we're gonna come over here, and I just wanna make sure people know, we're here to 8:30, we're willing to stay a little bit longer, but we just wanna make sure that we get to as many questions as possible.
So first, my name is Hannah. I'm a public defender, and I just want to plug that if anybody is aware of someone who's been abducted who also has a criminal case pending, the public defender has an arrest hotline, and if you can contact them, we have an immigration division of immigration attorneys who can also then do some back-end support, and we can also then make sure they don't get warrants issued for their arrest, and possibly defend them in any immigration matters. One of the question that I have is, and I don't think I've heard that anyone's here from the Evanston police, but regarding the orders preventing ICE from staging on particular properties, are the Evanston police committed to actually enforcing that? If we see that, should we be calling the Evanston police? Are they going to do anything, or is it just community members?
Yeah, I would encourage folks to call the Evanston police.
We are in the process. I don't have a mic. We are currently in the process of putting up signage. Our facilities already have signage, but we will be having actual signage in a lot of the parking lots as a preventative measure. What I would say is if you were to see them, you can call, 311, and there's a number I can't remember, but you can call 311 and report it. But we do have a protocol that's being put together for our staff on the next steps to do. The resolution did give us some time. I mean, this is all new, and we're trying to do as much as we can, but we are right now working through all of those protocols that we are going to be sharing with our staff. So there's going to be a process of what they're supposed to do. I cannot fully answer your question right now because this resolution just passed and we're working through it.
A couple other questions over here.
I was wondering about the Home Depot situation. There's some chatter about how Home Depot maybe hasn't been as protective of its customers as it could be. I don't know if that's valid. Is it outside the Home Depot, inside the Home Depot? But are there actions that we can take as citizens if that would be effective in terms of boycotting? Yeah.
Hold on one second. Let me get the mic for it.
So, yes, Home Depot has been a very central topic, right, when it comes to the detention of people that are outside looking for work. The National Defense for Day Laborers, NDLON, has been working closely with us to figure out what is happening on their end. And so far, knowing who Home Depot has donated to, we can tell that they may say that they are, not coordinating with ICE officials, but they are pretty much letting it happen. And right now, it really does vary from store manager to store manager. Some store managers are more humane to the idea. Others, because they have a history of ambivalence towards people that are outside looking for work, they are very happy to let that happen. So we are currently going to be staging an event November 1st where we will be protesting outside of the 47th and Western Home Depot because it's disgusting seeing a business just stand idly while people are being detained. So there is coordinated action happening, and you can come to me and ask me how you guys can get involved. But there's a QR code in the back that if you are interested in patrolling the Home Depots in whatever corners closer to you, you can get in contact with us and it'll take you to an intake form. But you can speak with me about that later.
Angie, can you just stand up so everybody can see you on the back? Thank you.
So, knowing that ICE is regularly flouting the law, I wonder how the city of Evanston plans on enforcing the laws already in place to protect its residents. How does the city plan on enforcing the laws already in place to protect its residents? Like, for example, we have this ban on officers wearing masks, but they were clearly wearing them. What is the city going to do to try to enforce these laws if ICE is not following any of them?
As you say, ICE is non-compliant with laws pretty generally, and so we're doing the best we can to have the best laws we can possibly have in place, but we can't ensure that they will comply with them. And just to be clear about the face mask resolution, because we recognize that the city can't regulate what ICE is wearing, that was calling upon the state and Congress to take action, since those are the entities that have more power to do that. When it comes to local law enforcement, this is an issue we're looking at really actively. You may have seen the Village of Broadview recently filed a lawsuit suing the Department of Homeland Security and asking for an injunction requiring them to take down a fence that they had put up in Broadview because it was a violation of local regulations. So there are instances like that where municipalities do have the power to demand that the Department of Homeland Security, that ICE follow local regulations. It's a pretty complicated legal landscape right now that is evolving pretty rapidly, but this is an issue that we're thinking about really seriously. I will also say that we are working with our sister municipalities across the country to join lawsuits in partnership with other cities, to join amicus briefs in litigation filed by other entities. We just, over the weekend, joined an amicus brief in the Supreme Court litigation challenging the National Guard deployment in Illinois. So we're also partnering with other cities across the country to work together.
We do have, go ahead.
Sorry, unrelated to that. You can finish whatever you're talking about.
No, I just have some questions from the chat.
Okay. Can I just say one thing really quickly? I just wanted to plug that in the event that someone that you know has been detained and you don't know what to do next, really the first thing to do is to try to get that person connected through the Family Support Network, which is the ICER hotline. The easiest and fastest way to do it at this point, just because of the massive influx in calls, is to fill out a detained loved ones form on the Resurrection Project's website. The Resurrection Project is a massive immigration services and another services agency located in Chicago, but they run a detained loved ones tracker that would put that person into a queue through the Midwest Immigrant Defenders Alliance, which is a bunch of different, I think there's 4 or 5 legal service agencies. So really that's the first step. I wish I could send out a link to you all right now, but it's easy to find. It's in English and Spanish. The next thing that I would say is we've heard from some of the presenters about the Castañón Nava settlement. There is essentially, as Enrique spoke to, if there's an event of ICE detaining someone, racially profiling and not using a warrant, which we know is happening all day, every day, if there is information about that arrest and a person is detained, then the National Immigrant Justice Center, NIJC, has a referral form for the Castañón Nava settlement. I'm happy if people want to speak to me afterwards, otherwise very Googleable. But if you fill out that form with information about the person who was detained and information about the details of the arrest, that would connect that detained person to the class counsel for the Castañón Nava settlement. So those are 2 really direct steps you can take. Otherwise, I would seriously suggest getting connected to Sanctuary Evanston, because when people are detained, their families need support, they need mutual aid, they need groceries. And so linking them to crucial community support is another good step.
And that's another reason we film, y'all, because that really helps the lawyers make their case.
On filming.
Just one more plug. So she was talking about if you guys witness and can gather information about somebody that's been detained without a warrant and probable cause in violation of Castañón Nava. Now, there's another thing that you can also do. If you know or if you're subject, someone that is a legal permanent resident or a U.S. citizen that is being detained without a cause, right? Because it's happening all the time, particularly the ones that are doing the migrant watch. They've been detained because allegedly they're obstructing. If they are detained, if you know someone, if you are one of them, feel free to reach out to us. I'm gonna leave the specific email that you can reach out to us. There's another lawsuit that is going on for those U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents that are being detained unlawfully, because it's happening. So that's another plug of other lawsuits that is happening in the city.
So people are asking questions of if they see people getting detained or whatever, and they're recording all of this, what are they supposed to do with those videos? Because I think there's conflicting questions like, do they send them to ICER? Are they supposed to post on social media? So can you give a little bit more detailed information of how to record and what to do with the videos that they're taking?
So I'm going to tell you what we do with those videos. We have a repository of where we collect all of that because it's being collected with a purpose. The purpose is to communicate with the family and then to create a lawsuit, to filter in the things that we need to do that. So you are not required to only send it to one. Maybe different organizations are trying to do different things with that information. But if you connect with ICER or if you connect with us, we try to use those videos. I'll leave that information there. I'm not going to say it here. so that we can just gather all that information and provide it to the individuals that are working on the lawsuits. Okay? So there is a purpose on that video. It's not just to put it on Facebook and get many views. The idea is to gather the information to build up a case when there's a violation of your constitutional rights. So we will share an email where all this information can be shared within the group of people that I work with.
Please do not put it on social media. You are endangering the family. Please do not put it on social media. You are endangering the families who are affected.
And re-traumatizing an already traumatic situation. I will add that there is an email address to be for videos to be sent to document. OCAD is Organized Communities Against Deportation, and they are part of the network of rapid response and all the information that is flowing about the daily abductions. So I'm getting that email address sent to me. Here it is, documentation@ocadshy.org. It just recently changed from an info email. So it's documentation@ocadshy.org. And there's a hyphen, and I don't know if that's because, no, it's all one word, not a hyphen. Documentation@ocadschi.org. You can also send it to the Sanctuary Evanston email address if you're local. There have been kidnappings that have been learned about because they were sent to Sanctuary Evanston, and I should have given that as a way to get in contact with Sanctuary Evanston. It's just sanctuaryevanston@gmail.com. So that's another place that it can be sent.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Sorry, let me add to that real quick, a detail I remembered. When you send an email with a video, if you can, please put location, time, date, any information that you do have about it. It's really important to then match the evidence with the kidnapping or the humans that were taken illegally.
I want to channel one of the organizers of our local school group who has reminded us on, speaking of re-traumatizing, of being really careful when we're doing community patrol. Neighborhood watch has been really hurtful to some communities in the past. I know in high anxiety, I've given the stink eye to anybody in a big truck. I don't live far from Home Depot. There's a lot of big trucks and people just trying to do their work. And now they're getting stink eye from all sides, right? So, one of the things walking around your neighborhood does is create a strong and connected community. So say hi to your neighbors, let people know they're welcome and they belong in Evanston. Unless you're trained, the surveillance part is if you see something actually happening rather than kind of trying to peek into cars, but really trying to build your community and connect. And if you are working around a school, be mindful that it can be really disruptive and anxiety producing for the students. So be sure you're working in coordination with the school. So that's just a comment because we've been reminded a lot, and then I just want to share that. I do have an actual question though, and that is, speaking of schools, if you do not have a school-aged child, is there another institution that you should be leaving a temporary guardianship document with?
I mean, I would leave it with anyone who, like potentially a pediatrician. I mean, anyone who is interacting with your child. You can only get the statutory temporary guardianship if the child is under the age of 18. So there is a process to get a standby permanent guardianship for adults with disabilities under guardianship. That's a whole different conversation. But for people under the age of 18, I would just think about who is a person that the child would regularly be in contact with that would have to interact with this person who's stepping in as temporary guardian.
And it's not like the guardianship. It's not that you need to present that document to each agency or practitioner that's going to have a contact with this person. You only provide that to the individual that's going to be acting as the agent, and them will present that document to whatever agency they need to deal with.
I know there's a lot of concern in the community about safety for our kids and at our schools, but the request is very specifically to connect with the school community, and please don't show up at schools just as a individual. There are communities being organized around each school to organize safe passage, to organize any sort of mutual aid and collective efforts, but the request is really to be sensitive to exactly what Ariel just spoke to, which is like we can't have people just showing up at the schools and patrolling in a sort of surveillance state. So a good way to do that is to potentially get in touch with Sanctuary Evanston and then get connected specifically to your school community. Or if you are already in a school community, ask around the PTA. I'm sure somebody knows what's being organized.
Just really quick, there's a question on the chat. The videos have to be from Evanston alone. I think the videos that are being gathered are from across the Chicagoland area. So if you are driving somewhere or whatever and you see something happen, don't feel that you're limited to where you can record. And this will be the last question.
Now I feel the pressure to make it like a really, really, really important good one. Meet the Goyle. Thank you very much for this presentation. We've heard about schools. We've heard about some of the smaller businesses, big businesses. Are there efforts organizing around access to healthcare that is safe, considering we have many different healthcare institutions here in Evanston and the city of Chicago?
So, in my experience, right, in the past, we got sanctuary places where schools, churches, and hospitals were places where they were not supposed to carry on these operations. But now we are in the Wild Wild West, and they're not respecting that, and in fact, they're trying to enforce that. So it will vary from location to location. At this point, I am not aware of something that is being applied across the board. Each institution, it's enforcing their own rules, manuals, and procedures. My recommendations for the ones in here and in the Zoom is to talk with your employer, the business owner, and ask them, if they come here, what are the protocols that we're going to follow? Does everyone is on the same page about whether we will allow them to come in? Does everybody knows what are the documents that they need to present in order to get in? In a hospital that you are mentioning, I mean, hospitals also carry on the HIPAA law, right? They cannot allow people to get into places where individuals are receiving medical treatment because HIPAA law doesn't allow that. But everyone needs to be on the same page. My colleague just mentioned about what's considered like a public space, right? The little lobby area where they got in. But besides those doors, if it's clear that it's a private spot, they shouldn't do that. Now, will they do that? Will they force a way in? Maybe. I'm not going to make you false promises. But so long as we document that, we can present this to the judge and say, like, listen, they keep violating your rules and your orders. What are you going to do about it? But that's in my experience. I don't know if my colleague has any other opinion.
I guess my question was also about community organizing to help individuals have safe passage to those spaces in the same way there are communities organizing around getting children safely from home to school.
So
One of the things
If
One of
I
the
can
things
just let me
Sanctuary
tell-
Evanston does is we provide rides for people.
But just to give you an idea today, because this happened today, an individual was just finishing dropping her kid at a hospital, a minor kid, for care. And after they were leaving, they were detained. So what you are mentioning and the information that she just provided to you guys is very important, because the reality is that no boundaries. And they're just trying to uptake their numbers, and they're trying to go anywhere you can think of. But it's important. People are afraid. People are afraid to go to courts and present complaints against people that are being abusing them because they're afraid that they're going to be detained. And I want you all to think about this. When they are not going to the court to present a claim or a lawsuit against someone that is violating their rights, it's not only impacting their rights or present their claim, it's impacting every single one of the members of the community who now might be potentially a victim of that abuser that is not going to be stopped because now they were not able to present a claim. This is just a reminder of the impact of the things that are happening in this city and this country. This is not impacting only immigrants, it's impacting every single one in the community. Hence, we need to collaborate, be smart, protest peacefully, and show them that together we're stronger.
Thank you, Enrique. With that, I just want to take a moment and thank everyone who is here today, both to our presenters and to our residents. I think many of us did not realize we would ever be living in this. A lot of things are changing. From our perspective, we will try to update our website and provide information and resources as fast as we can. I know things are always evolving and changing. But again, just thank you for today. I think that there's still other questions that people have that aren't answered, but things are also evolving. We will provide some of the presentations. I think the Moran Center is fine to have online, and we'll try to also do another FAQ. And we also learned a lot today, at least from the city perspective, things that maybe information that we can provide that we didn't think about before. So thank you for your insightful questions. And again, thank you, and everybody have a good night and take care of each other, please.